Happy Monday, everybody. And we're talking this November self-care, and more specifically, making time for self-care. But before I continue with this, I want to clarify what I mean when I'm talking about self-care. So I've sort of encapsulated my opinion on what caring for oneself is with the 3 words, you do you. So make sure when you do have a moment for yourself that you engage in something that actually fills your cup. And that sounds obvious, but how many of us go and do something we don't enjoy because someone else tells us it'd be good for us? So I have to put my hand up with that mistake because I've had a pedicure and I actually don't really like people touching my feet. They're very, very ticklish. And I don't have a lot of love for my feet. And when I go for a pedicure, they're touching them, they're making them pretty, they're doing all these things that I don't value, I don't enjoy, I don't care. Someone told me it would be good for me, so I went and did it, and I never went back. Actually, partly because I left with a headache from all the smells, right? So, if I'm going to demonize 2 self-care practices, they have to be meditation and yoga. And these are wonderful exercise modalities. And yes, you absolutely should do them if you can. They're fabulous for your brain. They're fabulous for your mood. They're fabulous for your body. They're fabulous for your hormones. But on the one hand, they take practice. So it'd be good to persevere. On the other hand, if you feel like an ice addict and you're all jittery after 10 minutes of meditation, there are alternatives that perhaps would suit you better and be easier for you to do regularly. Let me think. Going for a gentle walk, getting a massage, drawing, doing art, something creative, Tai Chi, mindfulness, breath work. There's lots of pretty patterns we can do with our breath and our pelvic floors that technically constitute mindfulness that will have a similar effect on you hormonally, mentally, emotionally, physically, right? So don't feel like you have to do meditation, yoga to look after yourself, even though they're fabulous. There are plenty of other ways to refresh your brain, and it's a matter of figuring out what suits you. Please don't go and get a massage if you don't like being touched by a stranger. It's not going to work. It won't be self-care. So it's not self-care if someone else is telling you to do it. It's self-care when it genuinely feels good for you. So here's an example. Last Tuesday, I woke up in a proper funk, right? Just teary, not feeling well mentally. And I pushed myself to go have lunch with some girlfriends because I know, and from the reading I've done, that socializing and being with friends is good for your mental health. Anyway, it didn't work. I had massive social anxiety about turning up in the state I was in. I cried at lunch because only one of the dishes was gluten-free and I felt left out. And I cried on the way home too. It didn't work for me. But I then loaded up my windsurfer onto the car, drove to Manly and went for a windsurf while Evie was doing her training. And I came home and I was reminding myself of how I'd felt not 3 hours before, and I was fine. So the movement, the mindfulness, the flow that my brain has to engage in when I'm doing that activity of windsurfing, that works for me. It would not work for everyone, and I would dare say it might work for very few people, but it genuinely feels good for me. So, by the end of that experience, I was feeling pride, I was feeling calm, I was feeling refreshed. I let myself feel pleasure that I'd taken that step and gone and done it. I hadn't sat in my funk. It was almost a form of meditation without meditating because I was focused. So maybe you need to tell me, like, have you delegated for once, or for one, since last week? And how have you filled that time? And have you made the mistakes I've made and tried to do self-care in a way that someone else tells you is the right way? Or have you filled that time with what suits you? So what did you do? How did it feel? Did you allow yourself to enjoy it, or did you spend your time thinking about your to-do list? You know, let me know how that goes. But the golden point today, the golden takeaway is you do you. Okay, you do you. It has to be something that gives you that flush. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean. I'll see you next week.